All right, good morning. You get me. I'm hanging out alone, but you get a little special episode. So enjoy this today. Sit back and relax. Let's go.
Everywhere I go, the people really want to know who I is and who I be.
I think in the 2 years we've been running this show at this point, we have never actually had a single host. This morning, you just get me because everybody is trying to get back in their seats from all the conferences, everything that's happening all around the country. There's people flying everywhere. Modern Retail Conferences ended yesterday evening, and so I'm hanging out here by myself. This morning, in just a little bit, we've got an interview with Paul De Vries. If you don't know Paul, he is from Holland and has just incredible insights about exactly what's going on overseas. So our Paul Daly, got to interview him. But just a couple things before we get going. One, if you are not registered right now for our webinar tomorrow, our ASOTU Edge Webinar, 30-minute webinars, you're going to want to do that. We're going to be with Invoco talking about revolutionizing phone call management. And my good friend, Zach Hendricks, is going to be with us. You can register by going to asotu.com, scrolling down just a wee bit, and the registration link is right there. So that's the big thing going on. Also, if you have been traveling or heard anything or have photos or anything, make sure you're tagging us in them. We want to share them out, share what's going on, the connections and conversations that are happening across auto. Also, be on the lookout. Whether you're an industry partner or dealer or OEM or anything, be on the lookout over the next few days as we prepare to fully announce and lean into ASOTUCon 2024 and everything that we have planned for you there. That's going to be incredible. We've got dates. We've got how industry partners can get involved already, ready to just hit the send button. So if you're on our email, make sure that you're paying attention to that. Check your emails for all of the information around that, and we'll be sharing it out on social as well. That's enough from me. We've got Paul De Vries, a little bit of a conversation diving into the EV landscape in Europe, the agency model, and how dealers over there are starting to look at different verticals for revenue streams and how they're serving other industries with their opportunity for revenue. So I won't bore you any longer with just by myself. Go ahead, check out this interview with Paul De Vries.
Okay, I'm standing here with the other Paul that makes me feel taller than I am. But this is basically, if you don't know Paul De Vries, is it De Vries or De Vries?
De Vries, yeah.
De Vries, see, I got it right. He is basically the Brian Pash of Europe, is what I'm going to call you. So why don't you tell people what it is that you actually do? We've seen each other here quite a few years.
Sure. So actually, I want to be the Brian Pash and the David King combined.
That's a good combo.
So my articles or my content is mostly about online lead follow-up. So that's my history as well. And I'm trying to be better at marketing, but I will never be as good as Brian in marketing. But I want to be that good as David about lead handling.
There you go. So why don't you give us a little insight, because the European market is very different than the U.S. market. However, it is also maybe an indicator of some things that are to come in the U.S., and we get to see how the European market handles things like EVs, agency model before, like we really have to field those questions. So maybe give us a little insight into what's happening in the European market and how you see it connecting to the U.S. market.
So for sure, in the Dutch market, we are a very small market. So it's a very good market for OEMs to try something. Because if it breaks by us, it doesn't matter.
How fun.
So you see on the Ford brand, we started the agency model in January, I think. And there you can see that the sales is dropping off like a black slope on the ski piston.
So they started agency model and sales are dropping.
Are dropping fast because every dealer holding in the Netherlands which have Fords trying to convince the consumer entering the Ford dealership to buy a Ford to buy something else of their stock. which is not a Ford brand, because they want to control the consumer by themselves. So you see the first faults already happening. Stellantis is now doing it for the last 2 months, the agency model, and didn't produce an invoice to the consumer because they didn't set up that invoicing thing already. So you see the mistakes already happening, and now you see the discussions with some OEMs that they are saying we're going on an agency model, but it's actually a dealer model, but they don't want to give that credit, so we're calling that an agency model.
So what is your prospect for, or when you look at the U.S. market, do you see that more or less likely to happen in this market? I know it's not your market, but you know a lot of dealers in the U.S., and you're very familiar.
I don't see it happening at all, the agency model. Sure, BMW wants that, sure, Mercedes wants that, and they are calling it an agency, but at the back end, there are some benefits, but there are also sure as hell just a dealer model, but we are going to reframe it. The biggest impact is going to be the EV market. For
right, great segue. I was going to make that segue, but you're a professional content creator.
No. But the EV market, like we know it, so in the Dutch market, Tesla is outselling BMW in total. So Tesla is selling more cars than
BMW ICE or EV.
Yes. So there is a shift going on. But what OEMs are talking about for years, that in EVs there is no margin to be made. Yeah? So Dutch dealers, for example, are investing a lot in the batteries, in charging stations, in solar panels, etc. So if they are selling a car, they're selling the solar panels on the car, they're selling the outlet on the house, on the office, they are selling the energy contract as well. And especially one dealer in the Netherlands are selling a lot of Kias and Hyundais. And Kias and Hyundais have the ability to make the battery both ways. So you can put in energy in the car, but you can also sell it outside. So they built their facility with all solar panels. They're charging all the cars at the day to fully load it, and sell the energy at night to the energy company.
So they're acting like an energy company, not a transportation company.
Because everybody was saying you cannot make money on the sale. They're thinking, how can I make money on the sale? So the EV car is the starting point, but never the end point. So you can sell a lot of extra services on it.
Well, Paul, always fascinating talking to you.
Thank you.
I love it that you're in kind of like a test market. It probably doesn't feel so great to be the test. But
is what it is, right?
It is, and it allows you to constantly pay attention and bring value to the automotive community. How can people follow along with what you're doing or stay in touch with you? What's the best way?
So we are not into that Facebook thing, actually, especially not on the business side. So it's dominantly by LinkedIn. Okay. And Paul De Vries, a most common surname, last name in Holland, but you will find me there.
Spell the last name just for people who are just listening and not watching, can't see the name.
Reas.
Vreas. Paul De Vries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, first things first, I'm sorry that I said Paul De Vries. It is Paul De Vries. That's on me. We talk about this a lot here at the Automotive Troublemaker and at ASOTU, is that we have to be looking at, as a dealer population, as an industry partner population, on how do we equip ourselves with the ability to appropriate revenue streams outside of just the sale or service of a vehicle, and to hear that these dealers are looking at themselves not just as transportation companies, but as energy companies, as I think something that we need to be leaning into. And it's really encouraging from my perspective to hear how dealers are handling the new agency model, and how it's just in their frame of mind is just a new dealer model, as opposed to just a full takeover. And that there's been some learnings over the last year in the pain of growth and either the loss or the successes there. So all is not lost. I know a lot of times in our world, we kind of hear what's happening in Europe and we get extremely sensational about it. But this is an extremely measured approach, and just the fact that Paul is in the US learning alongside US dealers means that we've got a lot to learn from each other. So with that said, thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. Paul will be back tomorrow. The whole crew will be back tomorrow. We're heading into 2024, gearing up for the year end. I hope you're gearing up to serve some customers today.